Nicole, and this is my daughter Raven, and we're going to share. Ours is really about emotional experience during a time and space in our lives, and it was really during a time where. So I would say that sometimes you have emotional baggage that you bring into the relationship, but then there's sometimes you accumulate emotional baggage in a relationship, as well as those ones that are dormant become relevant again. So for me, it was when I got married a second time, and this is my youngest daughter, I have an older daughter, and they were teenagers at the time. So you can just about imagine the emotions they went through, because I will just say up front, my oldest daughter did not like the man that I chose to marry. So already, there was some issues there. But, that was a decision that I made. And so I lived with that, and I moved on from that decision. And thank God that God is my Lord and my Savior. I don't know where I would have been if it had not been for God in that space. But I will say that coming into that marriage, I think I was vulnerable at the time when I met my ex-husband. I'm retired military 20 years, but I still work for the DOD, and I had just came back from Afghanistan. So just vulnerable, been divorced from their father, probably about five years, and met this person, and instantly we hit it off and everything. But I will say, you have to be cognizant of the signs. And there were signs that I did not adhere to. So again, like I said, I have to live with that choice that I chose. So coming into that, I went through, just fast forward some years, I went through depression, went through failure too, because even though I did I'm well aware of who I am and what Christ says I am. But I too am the type of person that if you come to me and you have a problem, I always want to try to fix it too. And so I'm learning still to, let God handle it. I'm not God, I can't do it. But I'm also the type of person that don't want to fail. Failure was just never something that I like to do, but I also learned through the years that failure is my biggest lesson, my biggest teacher.
So I took on a lot of the emotional piece of it as well. Just really from a standpoint of, we were raised by her this whole time, and the man comes into our life to be a father figure, but that wasn't a father figure that we were comfortable with. And I think that's where it started off kind of rough for us, because we've been around men throughout church, and those are men that me and my sister would see, like these are father figures or whatever. We would see these type of men be around these men, and then he would operate differently, and we saw signs very early. But for me, I can't speak for my sister, but for me, I just wanted my mom to be happy. But as those several years went on, it was very up and down. Even for me and his relationship, I was cool with him. Some months we were good, other months we were not. And then I also had a mouth. So any of those times of, getting kicked out, like I'm usually the one in his face. And everyone's like, I'm not Raven because she's so this and that. And I'm like, no, that was a lot of me in between them, because I'm extremely protective of my mom and I'm extremely protective of my sister. And so even though my sister left, I told my mom, I'm not leaving you with this man. So that was my mindset. And I knew God was going to protect us in that situation. And I think God had his hand on the whole situation, as she said, because even though it might not have been a way that she wanted to be taken out of the situation, that's what he felt was best fit for her. And he's not going to put us through anything that we cannot handle. And I think she handled it very well. Like she said, she was like, I'm not going back. Now, granted, as a woman, especially now that I'm older, you think, oh, how can I fix this? Maybe we can get better, some counseling and stuff. And I can understand that's another part she probably had to deal with, that as a child, we were relieved. But I felt for her, and as I'm older, like I said, I feel like she's a person just as much as I'm a person. Yes, she is my mother, but she is also human. There's things that she grew up with, there's baggage that she came into that situation with that I did not experience, that I've been blessed to not experience as going into any relationships I've been into, but I have my own personal baggage as well. So it made me stay closer to her. I mean, I've always been a mama's girl, so I wasn't going far anyway. And that's probably why I was very defensive with him in the first place. And so I think that when it comes to, like I said, it being a season, I think, like she said, sometimes you go into things and you also accumulate the baggage. I think that was a season for us that we were able to let go of. And I think there's important to know that, yes, we have baggage that we carry with us, but we also have baggage that may be accumulated, that it's just for a season and it's gone. And we can let that go. I don't think either of us hold on to that anymore. I know I don't. Now, right after, I was like, I don't really care for this man, but we moved out immediately. I think my boyfriend at the time helped us move and love, and thank God she had a rental property that was actually vacant when this happened. So we moved right back into our own home. And so I was very grateful for that. And then I just think that I can come out of my flesh and say that I think God was also covering him because I was not home when the incident happened. But I was like 5 minutes away. And because of anger of built up years and stuff, I was like flying home. And by the time I got home, he was not there. And I told her, I do not know what I would have done if I was home. And the argument was about me. So I was already on 10 because me and him had issues that following week. Not all about me, but it triggered from a situation me and him had, and then it blew up to him putting his hands on her. So I think, like I said, I could be out of my flesh to know that God was protecting me to not do something so much out of anger, and I think God was protecting him because I don't know what extent of what I would have done if I was in the house. So I think that it's a blessing that we go through certain things because we don't have to hold on to them, we don't have to carry them with us. But I think that it's important to know that God's gonna always be there, and I think there's a lot of things that there's events and people that God puts in our lives that will protect us in those situations because we both have places to go when this time this happened. Even when she decided to move out, we stayed with family, church family that we grew up with. And I think that it's always been important for me to stay by her side. Unless I said I took that on, but I think God instilled in me, even at a young age, that I was able to take that on. And there's certain things that, yeah, in her marriage that I probably wouldn't do. But I would never hold her to it, and I want her to know that, yes, she may have dealt with the shame and all of that about, well, am I being a bad mother? I never thought that. Why? I don't know. That's just not something that God ever put on my mindset, that she's a bad mother. And I was going to stay with her no matter what. Like I said, I think I'm a little more stronger willed out of me, her, and my sister. So, yeah, that was just what I took on. But I know now also that it's hard to have a blended family as well. So I hope not to be in that situation, but if I do be in that situation, I would understand what it takes because there's a part of him too that he had never raised daughters. He had a daughter but never raised her. And there's a part of also that we weren't that disciplined. And I was like, so we weren't mad, but she's the type, and she's gonna tell you to do something, if you don't do it, she's gonna do it herself. And so I guess you could say we're very spoiled. So I was like, okay, so let's say, as I grow up, I realized that there's different perspectives you can put into every person in the situation. And I think for him, that even though I think he had a control issue, but I think for whatever in his mind that he thought that he was being a good representation of a father to us, but his approach was, in my opinion, very wrong. So now that I see it growing up, like I said, we lack discipline. And I think he tried to add value to that. Just the way he did it and delivered it was not very constructive for two teenage girls at that. So I definitely took on that baggage. Definitely stayed over people's houses, which did not do that before. We used to always have people at our house. We used to have Bible study at our house. I think we did that only a couple of times. I don't think we continue doing that. So it's a lot of things that people don't know what goes on behind closed doors and the tension and emotion that goes on. And the people that get through these things, I think that's a blessing. And so I just pray that, God continues to reveal things to people and deliver people from things. But I think my mother's deliverance was actually getting out. And that is something that I think we all have made peace with, and we're extremely grateful for.
Because I personally know them. I went through this with Tracy. I was one of her closest friends during that time. our relationship almost broke up because I tried to tell her. I did. Alicia talked to her. We are close friends. We were in that intimate space. But she was determined she was going to do what she was going to do. And I ain't mad at her. Been there and done that. I just want to say to Tracy before we take 2 questions. I've always loved you. Every time I met you. Always. And I ain't mean no harm when I tried to. I ain't mean no harm. And I knew that brother didn't particularly care for me. As a matter of fact, I told her to separate herself from me. But that was my friend. What God has put together. In any relationship, if God do it, it's going to hold on in spite of all the challenging times. When the alarms go up now,
Thank God for that. He gives me that wisdom to see it and spot it up front. And I be like, oh, sorry. I thank God that He gives me the wisdom and the vision to see it up front so that I can recognize it and move on.
fear of failure. How you doing with that today?
I still struggle with it sometimes. I'll be honest, I still struggle with it sometimes because I thrive on success. I thrive on being able to, it's more so I thrive on being able to support my loved ones, my family, my sister and my brother, be there for them. So that success is big for me.
Success has baggage. Yeah. It has baggage. And you can be traumatized with it. I would say to my dear friend, be led by the Spirit. Even when it comes to supporting, be led by the Spirit. Because what I might think is right to do, you playing God at some point. When God says back off, allow your friends and family to experience God in that level. Because you are stopping their blessing. You're hindering their blessing. Allow God to minister directly to them. You can't fix everything, and everything is not for you to be fixed. I'm talking to me right about now too. Is anybody in the house? Oh boy, look at here. Are we dealing with baggage today? I thank God for Tracy and Raven. I thank God that you all were able to come through. Raven, there's nothing like loving a mother, is it? Nothing like it. And sooner or later, you're going to have your own family. And the baggage that your mother had, don't carry it with your family.
Just first the comment, then the question. So, what I heard from you today, you mentioned that basically what the enemy meant to harm you, God used it for his good. But I also got out of it, and I think it's important for us to understand that sometimes the enemy is the inner me. When we want to, I think when you make this mistake sometimes, we do a thing and it's God's will. It's our will. We want this. And then we serve God that still give us another chance to get out of it and get it right. So I just applaud you for getting out and getting it right and recognize it was meant against you, even though you might have been your own enemy as you're going into it. And then the question I have, so knowing this, what are you pouring into your daughters now as they, like Raven said, I want a man, I want a husband. And then your other daughters were like, I don't need no man. How are you pour into them going forward to let them know that, marriage done the way God is the way God intended is very special. It's meant to be that way. How would you do that?
You have to make those choices yourself, and you need God created man and woman for a reason, and so therefore, you should want to find a husband or be married. So I'm continuing just letting them know that you need someone else. And Raven, like Raven said, Raven knows that already. And Sherelle knows that too. She's just still one of those ones that she's my, you always have two. You have to, when you have a, they opposite, but she understands too. She was married before, and she went through a divorce as well. So she has 2 kids. So I want her to understand that, marriage is a beautiful thing. God ordained marriage. And so continue to strive and look for someone. Well, not look for someone, but be led by the Spirit. If God sends you someone that, you feel that right person, then be open for it. She's already in that space, I believe. But I just constantly just let them know, God is a good God. He's going to bless you.